Okay, brothers and sisters, we're back. We made more connections to these signs that are amazing revelations. We are going to break this down for you and show you something that is amazing, at least to me. Very few people fully understand or grasp what was given to me as far as calendars are concerned. But what we're going to do today is we're going to show you how this sign aligns with the calendar that was given to me in late spring. And I want to explain in detail. This may take multiple parts. I want to keep these short. So let's break this sign down. Here we are. We're looking at Comet C2020 X3 Soho, exiting the constellation Scorpius on 12/24/2020. And what we want to do is show you this period of time, this 8 days, and then I want to explain to you what this is in the calendar. So here we are on the 24th. And then we see how on the 29th, Comet Soho enters the fire of the altar. And then we see how excuse me, how it becomes the capstone on the 1st. And we can see this here. This is essentially a perfect alignment in the constellation Triangulum after having come through the fire. And we have ourselves an 8-day period. And it just so happens to be Hanukkah on the celestial gospel calendar. Let's run this back. If we start where we left off, on the 24th, where Comet Soho exited the constellation of Scorpius. Now remember, what we've found this comet to represent, it's now in the Golden Gate as it exits Scorpius on the eve of Hanukkah. And five days later, or you could even say 4 days, because if you look, it actually enters in on the 28th. And then on the 29th, it enters in higher on the fire. Remember, this is the altar. Ara is the altar, the flaming altar. If you do your research in the Mazzaroth, you will see how the stories are that the Milky Way is poured from Ara, and it is fire. And in some stories, this is essentially hell. This is the lake of fire, the river of fire. And if you've been watching my channel for a while, then you will realize even more how the ark riding on the edge of the Milky Way is a sign of our escape. And you can see how Scorpius is right in the middle, especially the tail, the sting, is in the middle of the fire. And Comet Soho ends up at the capstone position on the 1st. And that position is the final day of Hanukkah on the celestial gospel calendar. And you just cannot make any of this up. This calendar was given to me through 20 plus years of researching the stars and the heavens and books and manuscripts and so much archaeological data over so many years that I've been able to decipher a lot of the things that are misunderstood in our history books. And many of the things that the so-called church, which I don't consider most of the people in the church as part of the church, but that being said, most of the people in the church consider this kind of work to be astrology. And they don't want to touch it with a 10-foot pole. And it's so vital for us to understand. This is the exact same story as the wise men of the time of Messiah. When they entered into the land, the people in Israel were dumbfounded. They did not understand. The kings and the wise men of that time had to go and do their research and find other scribes and Pharisees that had the deeper knowledge to be able to accredit what the wise men were there to do. And I think we have the exact same thing going on here today. Most of the nation does not realize that the story that's going on in the stars is so deep and so profound. But because this is essentially a lost art and a lost science, there's so much corruption in the stars today. You have to go back from a Mazzaroth perspective to gain this understanding. And most of the world does not have that Mazzaroth perspective. They see everything from an astrological perspective, and that's all corruption. So I want the family to be able to understand that this message that we're seeing in the stars over this period of time, ending on January the 1st, is a great and wondrous sign being given to us during Hanukkah on the celestial gospel calendar, ending with C2020 X3 Soho, the capstone, and also the marriage covenant stone, having come through the fire, having made it through the grip of Scorpius. We now are seeing the completion of the story. Remember, signs come before the exit. Hold on to your crown.